2019 season preview of the Educator Collaborative's ways of learning with us this year, including online and in person. I am Chris Lehman, founding director of the Educator Collaborative, and I'm joined by a colleague and friend, Shauna Coppola. Hi, Shauna.
Hi.
And we were just discussing before we came on here how we're excited to share with you ways that you can study with us in person and especially online this year. But we also were sharing how our two families are kind of between the start of the school year. So my children go back next week, and so they're on the other side of that door, being very kind and quiet right now, but they've been used to staying up very, very late, longer than they should have, and we have to fix that really quickly. And Shauna, you have something even more exciting.
I have a bazillion preteen and teenage girls here squealing on the other side of that door.
So we're in for a great night, everybody. Here we go. So we're happy that you're joining us live. If you are, you can certainly send questions or thoughts or comments. You can do that on Twitter using hashtag #TheEdCollab. You also, if you're on the YouTube live page, you can join in and watch from there, and we'll be following along there too. If you have to step away at some point or are joining us in the future, this session will stay recorded. It also will appear at the Collab Gathering in a few weeks. It'll be on the agenda there as well too. So whether you're live or in the future, thanks for joining us. So we want to talk about all the big things that are going on with the EdCollab this year and ways that you can join in along with us. So to start, maybe one good place to begin the story of our planning and thinking about the year is in putting together this year's study series sessions and our virtual think tank cohorts. We were thinking a lot about what we value as the EdCollab family, what our vision is for literacy education and the future of literacy education. And we realized that there are a few things that we'd always been doing that didn't necessarily show up in a specific enough way in our study series and our virtual think tanks. And in particular, it's this. We always believe in aligning the work that we do to standards, both because we know that they're important drivers for the ways that many schools and districts plan in the US and around the world. And we also know that you as educators, when you're working with students, you have these in mind as well too. So we want to make sure whatever we're doing with you supports the work you're actually doing with kids. So we've always had these first three columns there, the Common Core state standards, because we know many of you, even if your state is not using them or has revised them like New York State has, we know that you're aware of them and you could likely find that document. So we have the Common Core state standards, the Danielson frameworks that many states use as a teacher evaluation system, and the ISTE student standards for technology use with students. We know that these are things that many of you use. And so what you see on the screen here is those first three columns that we've kind of put little checkboxes next to the 12 study series sessions and how those line up. But if you look to the last column, the last one labeled teaching tolerance, this is something that isn't new in our thinking, but we realized we were really missing in our specific planning. And that's the teaching tolerance social justice standards. We have, at the EdCollab, have worked closely with many friends at Teaching Tolerance. In fact, you'll see in just a moment that we have one of them joining us this year for our study series. But one thing we didn't do as specifically before is to really align our study series, our virtual think tanks, and just our work in general to that set of essential standards. We know that we believe to our core, but now really want to demonstrate through our planning that all of these literacies are important. The literacies that we use for reading and writing, speaking and listening, the literacies that we use in our interactions with students, the literacies we use in terms of digital literacy, and we also believe strongly in social justice literacy, in having literacies involved with the 4 domains of the teaching tolerance standards: identity, diversity, justice, and actions. You can see there on the screen, we've added that as clear alignments to our sessions, and we'll be using them in our planning. And we know that many of you use the teaching tolerance social justice standards. If you don't, just type that into your Google Box. You can find it there, and it's incredibly progressive, useful document from an organization that's doing incredible work for all educators and students. So that's kind of I think a helpful frame for the work we'll talk about, that all of those literacies are essential to us here at the Educator Collaborative because we know that they're essential to you. And so we're using them in one of our ways of thinking about planning this year. So we'd like to start with an introduction to our virtual think tank cohorts for this year. So our virtual think tanks are intensive cohorts of educators that meet online. There are 5 online sessions. It's in a tiny little group, no more than 10 people all together. You meet with a leader from the Educator Collaborative, and you more or less become, as we have here, kind of a virtual family of inspiring literacy educators. Each year, our virtual think tank cohorts have educators from around the world, some of which may be tuned in right now. Hi. And you really meet together on camera. You talk together. It's not just a webinar where you're kind of behind the scenes. You can see each other, you talk to each other, and it really is built around inquiry. The thinking behind our virtual think tanks is we want a place where engaged, inspired, often veteran educators, though you certainly can be in the early years of teaching, but many times engaged, inspired veteran educators to have a place where you can grow and mature your practice with other educators. We call them virtual think tanks, not webinars, because they're not just listening to an expert the whole time. Instead, it really is every person who joins around this kind of virtual table brings their expertise and talks together. This is typically something that schools sign up for. So schools will usually pay the registration cost for the member, but that comes with 5 sessions for the member, and then what we'll talk about in just a little while, an entire year's worth of study series sessions, 12 sessions that you can share with all colleagues in your same school. Every single person who teaches at your school can watch the study series along with you. So our virtual think tanks are built around the idea of this kind of virtual family where everyone around the table comes with their own expertise. Every session, you're led by our leaders who kind of get the work started. But then between sessions, you practice back at your own school. If you work with students, you'll practice with students. If you work with adults because you're a literacy coach or a leader, then you'll work with other adults in your building, or perhaps go into some classrooms and try things out too. And then you usually come back together and share what you've tried. I was just in a district over the summer, and one of the principals said that one member of the group who joins many of these often, he said, you know, thank you. I've really seen how her involvement in virtual think tanks has meant so much to her professionally. It shows in her practice with students, and we're just so excited that we found these. And I said, well, you're welcome, but it really is the leaders and the members of the group that have made this possible. So we'd like to share our virtual think tank cohorts for this year. There are 3 to choose from. In fact, you can find them right now on our website, which you'll see at the bottom of the next slide. And the first one is led by Shauna and Joellen McCarthy, our book ambassadors. So Shauna, I'll turn this over to you to talk a little bit about your upcoming cohort.
All right, great. So we're super excited. Joellen and I have not worked together this closely until now. We certainly know each other's work and have spoken and met and talked about different things around the Educator Collaborative, but we're super excited to be co-coaches for you. And one of the things I'm most excited about is that, like Chris said, this is really inquiry-based. We're doing this kind of work through an inquiry lens. And this is the way that I coached for the past 7 years at the school at which I taught. So I'm really used to sort of building curriculum based on what my colleagues want to know about and what do we want to explore together. Our virtual think tank is called Planning, Reading, and Writing Connections, Building Bridges for Learning. And so we're really going to look at how do we sort of make those connections, and how do we sustain the work of reading and writing beyond when students are in our particular class? What kinds of practices should we be using? What can we experiment and explore with, and come back and talk and reflect about how that went, and then use that information to move forward? So I'm really excited for that one. And I actually participated in a mini virtual think tank a while ago. It was about writing for educators, and that was during the summer. I think it was 4 weeks. And it was just fantastic. The small group aspect of it, the real, the feedback that you get right away is just awesome. So I'm excited to actually co-lead one of these this time around.
And I should also add, because Shauna's modest, that Shauna is author of Renew, Becoming a More Engaged and Authentic Writing Teacher. She's also working on a new book as well, too. And so Shauna's bringing to this a lot of experience in all of balanced literacy, and especially in thinking about progressive teaching around writing. And then Joellen is bringing to this, oops, I'm getting a little feedback here. Joellen is bringing to this her background and experience around teaching reading. And she together with Joellen, or she together with Shauna, are going to, I'm sorry, I'm muting here, there, okay. She together with Shauna are going to bring together a lot of ideas about using reading to support writing and writing to support reading. As you can see on your screen, this is built in with the thought around grades K through 6. If you're like a 7th grade teacher and you really want to join, you certainly can. If you're a 12th grade teacher and you know that a lot of the examples may be more elementary, but you're totally fine with that, like many of us are, we just love to learn from each other, you certainly can join, but know that that's the focus of that one. So our next cohort we'd like to introduce and share to you is designed with secondary in mind, grades 5 through 12. So this will be led by Dr. Dana Stakowiak and Trisha Varia. Dana has led a virtual think tank since I think we started virtual think tanks. And she has always been asked to come back by popular demand. People who have been involved in one think tank with her want her to have another think tank the next year. And Dana runs her think tanks as really a place where you are studying content, but also studying yourself as well, too. It's a place where many people that write back to us, in fact, I will say more people have written back about Dana's cohorts than have written back to me about my own cohorts that I've led. But Dana has a way of helping that family that comes together feel conscious and ready and united as they dig into challenging work. We are so happy then that Trisha will be joining Dana for her first year leading a virtual think tank. Trisha, as you likely know, has a vast background. She teaches high school. She's a co-director of a national writing project site. She also is co-founder of Disrupt Text. And so this cohort, called Design Reading Instruction that's culturally relevant, rigorous, and responsive, comes from really 2 experts thinking about the ways that we interact with students and other adults in our schools, how we bring our beliefs, our biases, and our hopes for humanity into all of the work that we do. And this cohort will certainly help you not only rethink the text that you use, the instruction that you have, the curriculum that you design in your secondary English program, but it also will certainly challenge you to think more critically about the words that you use, the beliefs that you carry, and how those are played out in the classroom. I know that this will be a cohort that you'll find challenging in a fulfilling way. You'll leave with your head spinning, and you'll want to have time in between each session to try things out and come back together. I also know from these 2 amazing educators that it'll feel like a really loving, safe communal space to do that. They're very gifted at taking challenging work and helping people feel like you really can do it. So again, if you teach at the secondary level, anywhere in grades 5 through 12 or upper elementary, this certainly is made for you. Though if you're a 2nd grade teacher that you know, the examples will be more middle school, high school, but you really want to dig into this, you certainly can join. And I also want to sign up for all of these. Then the last one to share with you here we go, is this one, Dana's back, again, by popular demand for, I think this is the 4th or 5th year, you'd have to correct me, Dana, but maybe 4th or 5th year of this particular cohort. This cohort on leading change, it's had a couple different names across time, but it's really designed for literacy leaders and literacy coaches. Shauna is a literacy coach, former literacy coach and consultant. I'm a former literacy coach and consultant. I know from other literacy coaches and leaders that it is an amazing role to have and is also completely overwhelming and very exhausting, and sometimes can feel like you're kind of all alone. And for us to be our best as leaders, we really need to continue to grow our practice, but also have a place to come back together, refresh ourselves, re-energize ourselves. And that's really what this cohort is all about. Dana has led this cohort in many different ways. Sometimes it's been a book study. Sometimes it's been group members bringing a problem of practice each week, and you'll kind of think through those together. What Dana always does with this group is starts with the group members to decide what you need best. And then she's very adept at leading you through that. So if you are a leader or a coach at any level, a department chair, an instructional coach, a assistant principal, a principal, a curriculum supervisor, any of those sorts of roles where you typically work with other adults in your building, whether it's full-time or part-time, in that role, this is certainly a cohort for you. So those are our virtual think tank cohorts for the year. And every time you sign up for a virtual think tank, you automatically get a study series along with that, the full year study series, all 12 sessions. So I just wanted to quickly show you, if I can get everything on my screen to work, as I hope it will. I wanted to show you what this looks like when you visit our website, if you wanted to sign up for a virtual think tank. And I'll just do this really briefly for you here. So when you go to learning.theeducatorcollaborative.com, and I hope this is showing up on your screen. When you go to learning.theeducatorcollaborative.com, just click on virtual think tanks or register for cohorts, and here you'll find our cohorts. You can click on a sample letter that you can download for your administrator that kind of explains why you'd want to be a part of this. And we use some of the terminologies and concerns that we know schools and districts have. We've included that in here for you. You also can download our services guide to see the full calendar and all the options for virtual think tanks. And there's lots of other things here, including cohort benefits. When you scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, you'll see the 3 options. Here is the K through 6, 5 through 12, and the coach and leader cohort. You can hover over quick view and then just click on it, or you can go on the register page and also click on it. And from there, a window will pop up, and you'll be able to just scroll down and say add to cart. So that's how you'll add the virtual think tank to your cart. So virtual think tanks, again, are typically school-based purchases. They are $750 for everything, for the entire year of cohort meetings where you're in a small intensive group, and for the full year study series. The full year study series is $348 for the full series. That's about $20 per session. And so that's a part of that $750. Now, that, again, we said is really a school or district purchase. Schools or districts that want to invest in both an individual educator and getting stronger and finding community with other educators and having 12 sessions that you can share with everyone else. We, of course, would love to just give this to you like we do many things, and we'll talk about a little bit later. But I do just want to say that another thing that we believe in at the Educator Collaborative is really supporting and growing the professional work of inspiring educators. So that fee, the majority of it, goes to supporting the leaders that are leading your cohort, that they're giving of their time each of those weeks and time in between, so that they can focus on both their full-time day jobs and supporting you. And then a small fraction of that goes to just making sure that the lights stay on here, that we can have our website going and other things as well. So that fee, again, we don't think about it as one that an individual likely pays. That usually, for people that have joined before, is a school or district investment in an individual. And we would love to give it to you, but we also want to invest in the people that are sharing their expertise with you. So we'd like to go from virtual think tanks to now sharing, and this is really exciting, sharing our study series for the year. So before we start, Sean, I know you've also been a part of the study series before. So anything you'd like to share about that?
Yes, so I have not only participated in these as a learner, but I've also co-hosted one before last spring. Chris and I co-hosted one about keeping energy high mid-year. And what I love about these, what I think is so great about what you get for what you put into it, is that these are available to you through the end of June. And so you can go back and rewatch and rethink and just sort of reflect on some of the learning. We so often just do not get everything the first time around. There's so much to take in. And so I love that these are available. They're archived for you to look at and watch again. So I absolutely love these. And the lineup is amazing. If you look at all of the study sessions, you'll see words like equity, love, passion, joy. I mean, it really is a beautiful lineup and so many great opportunities for learning this year.
And I do want to say what Shauna had mentioned earlier when we were planning ahead, that another benefit is you're not on camera. So the virtual think tanks, we see each other, but for these, we're not going to see you. So you can really wear anything you want. You can be in your PJs if you'd like. You can be coming home at the end of a school day, kind of like pulling your hair out and tune in live or watch on demand, and you're totally by yourself. So that's a benefit that I also agree is a benefit. I will not confirm nor deny that I've sometimes had pajama pants on when I was hosting them myself. I will not do that. But as Shauna said, our year, we are so excited and happy about to share with you. So what we'd like to do for the last largest section of our time here together is to just talk session by session with you to share a little of how the session came together, or some of the focus that's inside of it, some of the stories behind those and our thinking behind them. Well, here we go. We'll just go ahead. Oh, one thing I should say just to preview is, so the study series, if you join a virtual think tank, the study series, the full year comes with that. You also can sign up for the full year yourself, so you don't have to register for a virtual think tank. You can just sign up for a full year study series, or you can sign up for individual sessions. So the pricing of those, one session is $49 for the session. That gives you access to the session that you can then share with everyone in your building through your own screen. So you can invite people around a laptop or put it up on like a smart board or even a projector. We have seen and heard from coaches and teachers and leaders that have done all versions of that. You will have access to it through June 30th. You also will have access to related resources that the presenters have curated for you. Links to articles, sometimes videos, sometimes handouts that they have for you, or even links to books that they recommend. So it's $49 per session. If you buy 3 or more at a time, so if you're in the cart page and you're like, I want these 3, it becomes $39 a session. And if you purchase the full year, it's $29 a session. In addition, brand new this year, you can now add additional logins. So those are $5 each. So for $5, so you purchase a session for $49, for $5, you can add another person to join in virtually. When you add a virtual login, an additional login to the session that you're already a member of, that allows that person all the benefits that you have, including all of you can get a certificate at the end. Or if you're a New York State educator, you can sign up for CTLE hours, which we'll mention at the very end of this video. So lots of ways that you can purchase and share. In-person is free, just gather people around your screen, or you can purchase for $5 additional logins as well. Okay, so here is our year. So starting off our year, we are so excited, is a session called Equity Literacy for Transformation. So this kind of builds from what we started with, thinking about the teaching tolerance standards, how the literacy of equity we know is critical to our own practices, all the people who are here at the Ed Collab, and we believe is essential for all of us as literacy educators in the work that we do, or frankly, for all educators. So we have Val Brown from Teaching Tolerance, who's amazing. She also leads the Clear the Air chat, which so many of you have been involved with this year. She will be joining us along with Dr. Dana Stakowiak, who I already gushed over earlier, for this very first session. It'll take place on October 17th at 6 p.m. Eastern, or you can catch it then later on demand. And I should mention, all of our study series always happen on a Wednesday, so they're easy to remember. And they either happen at 6 p.m. Eastern for about an hour, or 11 a.m. Eastern for about an hour. Those two times are so that those of you viewing from around the world have some options to watch with colleagues during the day and have some options to watch in the evening. It also is just to have kind of a consistent time. And those were the two times that many people have joined before found the most useful to them. So that's study series number 1, Equity, Literacy for Transformation. Study series number 2 is with Shauna. Shauna, would you like to talk a bit about it?
Yes. Well, first of all, the opportunity to co-teach this and co-present with Dr. Espana is just so exciting to me. We co-wrote a recent blog post for the Educator Collaborative blog, and it was just incredible. I learned so much just by doing that with her. And in our study series, we're going to be really focusing on building your own writing identity as educators and using that to inform your practice, really specifically too with an eye on helping students just really honoring all the compositional work that they do, and whether that is multimodal work, that's whether they're writing with different languages or multi-languages. And so it's really exciting to be able to help educators sort of build their own capacity as writers in order to inform their instruction. So I'm super excited for our study session.
Thank you, Shauna. And I'm excited as well. This is a special daytime session if you're in the Western Hemisphere. So as you can see on your screen there, it's at 11 a.m. Eastern. That is an afternoon or an evening for friends joining outside of the Western Hemisphere, or it's a time that you could bring colleagues together, like we know friends in Wisconsin, in New Jersey, in Florida, in several districts in Connecticut, and several districts across the United States will sometimes request that hour to have a coverage, and they'll join together, usually around their screen. We have some photos on Twitter as well of people sitting around a laptop together in a coaching session, or in the library watching off of their screen, like friends in Middleton, Wisconsin. Hi. So that's a daytime session in the Western Hemisphere that you could use in that way. The next is study series number 3, takes place in November, the day after Election Day. And this is led by Friends of the Ed Collab. And I'll also say one thing that I personally love about this year's study series is that it came together through really all of our members and lots of people that were helping to find really great sessions to put together too. So this one was helped to put together by our friend and colleague, Kristen Zemke. So Kristen is co-author with Katie Mutaris of Amplify, the text that I know many of you know and love, and has also taught alongside and worked with Mia Leonard, who Katie is also good friends with and teaching colleagues with. So Mia and Katie will be leading this session called Digital Tools for Reading, Inquiry, and Collaboration. What I love about this session is that they're coming to it with really a K through secondary experience, working with both young children and the way that they use digital tools to support their collaboration, the ways that they think together around text and share their thinking, and all the way up through secondary level. So this is a session if you are either totally into using technology because you use it all the time, or you and your district are like just getting Chromebooks, or you have one iPad that you're able to get through a Donors Choose grant for your classroom and you're figuring out what to do with it. This session will be extremely practical, as both of their work always is, inspiring, and one that we know you'll want to come back to. Plus, it's one that, again, you'll have access to on demand, like all the study series, through June 30th. So after it's live, you then could watch it again and again and again, as many times as you'd like. Study series number 4 is from our friend Enid Martinez. Enid has worked with Fontes and Pinnell, and she's both been a consultant through them and has studied with them. She's also been a consultant and worked through the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. And Enid consults nationally and internationally on multilingual education and around reading and writing, especially for young children. This session is going to be perfect if you already use guided reading or some sort of small group reading instruction and you want to go even farther with it. Or if you're in a school where you've heard you need to teach guided reading every day, all the time, and you're like, I don't know if that's exactly what we should be doing, and you want some help around that. Enid is an expert in guided reading instruction in the ways that we assess young emergent readers and how we use those assessments to tailor our teaching. So this session will be somewhat briefly a 101 on what is guided reading, how do we use it, but really most of the session will be spent on helping you explore and extend your guided reading practice. Enid calls it guided reading works when you tailor the teaching to your students, and she'll show you many ways that you can do exactly that, including using running records in an even more specific way. So if you'd like to really increase your expertise around this topic, this is a session for you. And again, it's another daytime session. We specifically made this one daytime because we think this would be a perfect one if you are a reading specialist working with a team of other reading specialists, or first and second grade level educators, or you're a leader or a coach. This would be a perfect session to go to your school library together, put it up on a screen or a smartboard or something, and really learn and watch together. You may even want to bring some of your guided reading materials along, because this will be a session you won't want to miss. Session 5 is led by Kate Roberts and Christy Moratz, two educators that need very little introduction. Here they will very clearly from their work cut across grades K through 12, looking at reading conferring. You can kind of think of this session almost as like a reading conferring 101. If you sort of have dabbled in reading conferences and they haven't gone that well, so you've stopped, or you have the question of like, how do I know all of these books? I don't know what to do with this. And you're really looking for practical ways to support readers in conferring from young all the way through older students. Kate and Christy will support you in this 1 hour-ish session on January 16th. Our 6th session is led by Troy Hicks and Trisha Baria. Troy and Trisha are fellows of the Ed Collab. Troy has so, I don't even know the number right now because I'm sure he's working on like 3 at the same time, but Troy has so many books on supporting digital reading, digital writing, supporting writers, whether you're digital or not. And Trisha's work extends through her work as a co-director of a national writing project site, and just her work with students extends into digital writing spaces. This particular session is not just on thinking about digital writing in general. They're taking a really interesting and specific spin on it. Thinking about those standard sets we talked about earlier, Troy and Trisha are thinking a lot about how our students interact with digital writing all the time, whether it's on their devices, on TV, or it's through the conversations that adults are having about those things. And we know that digital writing exists that is both informative and sometimes full of misinformation. So this particular session is going to look at the types of information that students are taking in either directly or secondhand through adults in their lives, and how a study of how you create digital writing can help kids be more mindful and meaningful in both how they think about argument and opinions in the world, and how they can more thoughtfully share those. So that comes up the end of January. Study series number 7 is on going farther with independent reading. This is Dr. Chantal Francois and Heather Rocco, two members of the Educator Collaborative, who do incredible work around independent reading across districts, inside of entire schools, and will really be a hands-on way of thinking about reading practice. How can you support your readers? This is happening mid-year because we have some earlier sessions that are kind of like, how do you get going? join. This one is the middle of the year because we know that's a time, especially in February, where many schools are starting to shift a lot of their attention over to standardized testing. Perhaps you have some assessments coming up, and independent reading can start to falter a bit during this time of the year. So this session will help you both kind of recommit to where you are, to what you believe in, and then go even farther with it. Then Study Series 8, we're so excited, is our book ambassadors. Joellen McCarthy and Julia Torres are the book ambassadors of the Educator Collaborative. Through that role, they support us at the Ed Collab and all of you in thinking about both books that you use and teach with and ways that you can be connected to new titles. So this session will cut all the way across K through 12, and knowing their intense love and joy around reading and sharing titles, they will certainly share with you lots and lots to think about. I'm really excited for this session. One just caveat is you may want to bring your wish list either for your department chair or your school administrator, or perhaps have your local independent bookstores wish list open on your computer, because you'll certainly leave with lots and lots of ideas of text that you want to use. Session number 9 is one that we're really excited about, and I wanted to share just a little bit behind this one. So session 9 is called Writing Characters You Wish Existed, and will be a study of fiction writing and narrative writing. We're joined by Ed Collab member Maggie Beatty-Roberts and special guest Karuna Riazi. Karuna is the author of The Gauntlet, and there's another book that I believe is coming out shortly, or maybe it's out right now, from her. I first heard Karuna speak. So first, I have had The Gauntlet since it's been out, but I first heard Karuna speak at the Bronx Book Festival, the very first book festival ever held in the Bronx, or at least held in many, many decades, that just happened several months ago in this past spring. Karuna was on a panel of middle grade authors. And first of all, I think I even tweeted at the time, you could listen to Karuna talk all day. Like, she is just so captivating and inspiring and incredible. And one thing that really struck me while I was listening to her speak, and when Karuna was talking about her work on The Gauntlet, is she talked about how she, as a Muslim author, she said that she, and I'm not doing her words justice, but that she had experienced this feeling of self-editing, that as she wrote, even as she wrote for herself, she oftentimes found herself writing for what she imagined a majority audience, a usually white majority Christian kind of audience, wanted to hear. And then as she started talking with other editors or writers or writing instructors, there were several people that would say, well, you know, if you're going to write Muslim characters, it really needs to be realistic fiction. If you're going to write Muslim characters, they really need to be tragic. We have to see the struggle that they're in. And Karuna said what she had always wanted to read and always wanted to write was strong, awesome science fiction Muslim characters. And so when she met publishers from Salam Reads and other writers that supported her, The Gauntlet was born. Some people have described The Gauntlet as kind of like a Jumanji, Jumanji-esque, but with some like totally rad, amazing Muslim main characters. So Karuna will be leading that session along with Maggie Beatty-Roberts, who also does incredible work in thinking about what voices are heard inside of the text that we write. So not just finding we need diverse books for our classrooms, but really thinking about, through our writing demonstrations or through the words that we use with our students, what stories do we allow and what stories do we limit? Maggie, in some of our work at the Ed Collab, has often pushed fellow Ed Collab members to really think about who's not the audience you're writing for, but the audience that you want to create, that you get to decide that audience. So this session will be one that really will help you think about, number one, just like practical, amazing strategies for writing narratives and writing fiction with your students, built off of both of these writers' own experiences with their writing, but will also help you challenge yourself to think, what are ways that you're opening up your writing curriculum to more identities in your classroom? And also, what are ways that some of those may be silenced that you could be more aware of? Study series number 10, happening in March, this one is wonderful, is But how do I grade literacy? Shauna, I don't know if this is your experience, but I feel like this is a question that I'm often asked, and usually my answer is like, blah, 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 blah. Do you have any sage advice?
Well, I mean, I think the question that I get asked more is not necessarily how do I grade it, but how do I grade it objectively? And I actually talk about this a little bit in my book about the subjective nature of us. We are human beings, and so I'm really excited to hear what they have to say about this, because I know that from their work they obviously honor that and understand that that's the case. And so, you know, we need help though, because there are these demands on us as educators. And so I'm really excited to hear what their sage advice is going to be.
And I appreciate what you said there of like, we also have demands on us. So one thing that is so wonderful about having Elizabeth Lacey Schonenberger and Josh Flores lead this is that both of them have extensive experience in both in literacy instruction and assessment at the school, district, and national levels. So first, I should say, in another session where like just great people have come together to make it happen. Heather Rocco is someone who helped also put together some sessions. And so Josh Flores has worked with Heather in a variety of different ways, including through CEL, a conference of the National Council for Teachers of English. Josh has extensive experience in all of those areas. He's worked from the classroom level all the way up through state levels in really supporting the ways that we think about literacy and ways that we assess them thoughtfully. So what will be great about this session is, just as Shauna said, they're both very student-centered and also understand the practicalities of the work that we do. And I'll say every time that I hear and see Elizabeth demonstrate work around assessment, I'm always like, whoa, 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 whoa. She'll take something like a rubric and make it 1,000 times better than you ever thought to make it before. So this will be both a session for you if you've ever asked that question, or if you've ever had this question asked of you. And we'll certainly look in a very student-centered, responsive way at taking, like Shauna said, this kind of subjective way that we think and look at literacy, and how do we approach that in perhaps what seems like an objective way of grading, but do it in a way that really honors students. So for our final 2 study series of the year, May 1st is Passion Projects. This is led by Kristen Zemke and Amira Abdel-Al. The Passion Projects bringing purpose through literacy. Amira is joining us as a fellow this year. Amira teaches in California. At a private Islamic school that's a progressive, incredible school where she has taught elementary and middle grade levels, and they're extending to secondary as well. In Amira's work with her students and in Kristen's work with students around the country and across the world, both of them really use technology, research, inquiry as ways to celebrate student beliefs and voice and help them drive their passions. We have this session taking place in May, not because that's the only time you should do this, but because we know that it's one of those times of years where everyone's burnt out from testing, except for, I think, Wisconsin, you do it super early, which is probably wise. But for many other states, you have testing just before this time. Everyone's burnt out, including your students. And also a lot of the demands and pressure that you felt inside of your curriculum tends to ease up in this last part of the year. And so we're placing this at the end of the year for 2 reasons. One, we think it's probably the perfect timing to take up a passion-based project where you're organizing ways that students can really take what they care about and use all of their literacies to demonstrate it, and to really try to make change within the world, or just to learn new things about the world around them. We also are doing this at the end of the year because we know this is a time where many of you are just about to start planning for the next year. So our belief is that this is something that certainly you can take up at the end of the year. We also hope it's something that you'll bring in much sooner to the year after. This session will be incredibly practical. You'll see lots of examples from students. One, for example, is Amira's students will often do a kind of literacy passion project at the end of the year. And one example from her classroom this past year is several students were really interested and concerned about gun violence in schools and ways that they could work to address that. So they did a lot of research. They connected with a local, I think, think it was a Mom's Demand group, and had some speakers that came in and really worked together to both figure out what role they could play in pushing both a local and national dialogue, but also to just help them think about the complexities of an issue and the ways that it's really affecting children and just their own safety in schools. So this session will give you lots of short-term, long-term projects you can look at. We think it'll be a great end to the year, an inspiring end to the year, but also one that we hope will lead you into the following year as well. And then to end our study series year, this is a tradition that we have here at the Ed Collab. The last and final session of every study series year is called Ending the Year with Joy. And we always bring in some incredible poet or writer or illustrator, author, just some amazing creator to take that topic, ending the year with joy, and then put their own spin on it, decide how they want to share that with you. This past year, many of you tuned in to see Janet Wong do that with us. She did many things to support you as educators, but she also opened up her poetry suitcase and shared that some of you were tuning in with your students as well. So this year, we're so excited and honored to have C.G. Esperanza, an award-winning illustrator and author of several books for students, with some more on the way. He also is an incredibly gifted graphic artist and street artist. A lot of his work can be seen around New York City on storefronts, walls, during different celebrations, and across other cities as well, too. I have his award-winning one of his award-winning books back here, Red, Yellow, Blue, and a Dash of White, too. So one thing that I'm so excited and honored by, I think I have it right there, there it is, The Bronx is Reading, is I met CG, actually my family and I met CG at the Bronx Book Festival, where he was in the little kids tent. So he was over there doing a reading. And one thing about Charles is that he is not only an incredibly talented illustrator and author, but he is so engaging, and kids just love him. So if you don't tune in for the study series, I also suggest you find him online and invite him to your school. So at the Bronx Book Festival, he actually was having kids come up and paint with him. So he was reading his book. He had someone playing the drums. One of the kids from the audience was playing the drums, and he was painting, having kids paint along with him too. So this session, Ending the Year with Joy, will be no doubt incredibly joyful. We also want to invite you, if you sign up for this session, you could play it live with your students. So you could have this playing on a smartboard in your room, or bring a whole bunch of kids into the auditorium, or perhaps into the library or somewhere else that has a screen, and you could watch our Ending the Year with Joy session. Charles will have both a content for teachers, but especially ways that kids can be involved in everything that's going on there as well, too. So whew, that was a lot of really amazing. So we hope that you feel inspired by this year. And Sean and I didn't really plan to now it's your turn to talk, so I'll give you a moment to respond, because I see you there.
Yeah, I'm just super, super excited. I mean, I have already put in my calendar most of these dates, and I'm just like, cancel all the plans, because I'm just really excited. And I think this is going to be an incredible sort of banner year for the Educator Collaborative. So I'm excited to be a part of that too.
So that is our year, looking at both the study series and our virtual think tanks. And we have, before you go, there's just a few minutes left, just a couple more announcements, including a really big one about the gathering. You stayed tuned. Although, of course, those of you who are watching this during the gathering, but for those of you that aren't, a couple of announcements. So first, one quick thing to share, and I'll also just briefly show you the website for the study series and just a few things to know about that. So one is this: if you are a New York State educator and you are looking to earn CTLE hours, if you're not a New York State educator, you can just ignore this for a moment. It'll just take a moment. If you are a New York State educator and you're looking to earn CTLE hours, or you know someone that would like to, you need to be a registered member of a virtual think tank or of any study series or the full study series year. Only registered members can earn these hours. There's a lot of reasons behind that. One of the biggest is that New York State requires us as sponsors of CTLE hours to be able to keep track of the number of hours that you're engaged with us, and we only can do that if you're a registered member. So registered members can join our study series and earn CTLE hours. So now, if you're not a New York State educator, you can watch this next part. So I'm going to show all of you just briefly here is our website for joining the study series, and I'll tack on just one more thing for those New York State educators. So if you go to our website, learning.theeducatorcollaborative.com, here you'll find study series. This is where you can register for study series. You also can see the additional logins. This is a page you'll go to if you want to add more logins, or I'll show you how to do that during registration. And then once you've registered, you'll click on our study hall to view them. So from this page, again, there's a sample letter for your administrator. If you click on this, you can see that slide I put up earlier about the aligned standards in case you want to use that. New York State educators can click here to skip to the CTLE section. There's lots of other things. There's how-to videos you can watch. There's a free preview if you want to see how study series work. You'll find that on our website. If you have a payroll secretary or purchasing secretary, someone who is going to purchase this for you, there's a video on how to create purchase orders and get our W-9. So other information there. So when you're on this page, there's lots of ways you can select sessions. The easiest of which is to do what you see here. Just click on these little check boxes and then click Add to Cart. That will put all of those sessions directly into your cart, and then you'll be able to move forward to registration. It also, it doesn't always do it like it isn't right now, where it'll add up the discount on this page, but in your cart it will. So if you have 3 or more, you'll see that at $39 each. Or you can just do this first one by itself, full year study series. A few things to know. Number one, each study series you can only purchase one at a time per order, and that's to make sure that you don't accidentally duplicate the same one. If you have a really complicated order, like you want to have 20 people from 20 different schools register, just contact us directly. It's so much easier if we just help you do it. It'll be easier for you. It'll go a lot faster. But otherwise, you'll just purchase for yourself or for one individual person. Now, if you want to add additional logins, you want other people to be able to have their own account with us where they can watch when they'd like to, they can share with other people, they can even earn CTLE hours perhaps, you'll just click on Quick View, and a window will open up after it loads for a minute. Just scroll down here, and here you'll just say how many additional logins you want. So let's just say we're adding 1, and then you'll say Add to Cart, and that will add both the session and the additional logins to your cart. Then your cart looks like this. And New York State educators, if you want to add CTLE hours, you'll just say yes to anything you'd like to join. So if I only want 1 CTLE hour for this one session, I'll say yes there, or I could put yes for a lot of them. If you have a coupon code, you can add that here as well too. If on this page you realize, wait, I actually wanted 2 logins, you can adjust that as well and just say Update Cart. Then you'll just proceed to check out. So I want to show you just 2 quick things on this page. What you'll see here is what it looks like if someone is trying to add CTLE hours. If you just left all of those as no, you don't have to worry about this. But if you are, it's going to ask you for the last 4 digits of your Social Security number and your date of birth. Those are required by New York State. Because the Educator Collaborative has been selected by New York State as an approved sponsor of CTLE hours, we're required to collect the information that the state wants us to collect. So you'll do this on this form, but we keep those safe and secure for you. If you did not choose yes, you won't see this and you won't have to worry about that. If you select additional logins, this is pretty cool. Down here, you can send it to someone and they'll get a voucher through email, but there's also a PDF that they can download with a code. They'll just type that coupon code in when they're checking out and they'll get that session basically for free because you've already paid for it. You paid $5 and they got it. Here's one funny little quirk about our checkout page that we are still in the process of ironing out. So I want to tell you how this works. If you notice, this says the amount is $112. The session doesn't cost $112. Instead, that's just a code for you to know that this is connected to the 12th session. So if it says 100, that means the full year session. If it says 101, that's the first session. 102, that's explained in this little note on the top. It doesn't mean that you're sending someone $112. You didn't pay for $112. You only paid $5. That's just there so that you know, oh, this connects to the 12th session in case you have many. You can type in the recipient's name, their email address, and even a little note to them. And then you can pay via purchase order or via credit card. So there's some videos that show you how all of that works in case you missed all of that. So in our last few minutes here, we want to remind you and make an announcement about the gathering we're so excited about. So one is to remind you that on September 29th is our next The Ed Collab Gathering. The Ed Collab Gathering is totally free, no registration, online day of K-12 literacy learning. It's a full day literacy conference. It's as jam-packed as a literacy conference. We have a keynote, a closing session, and multiple simultaneous sessions. I've already seen the agenda. It's going to be awesome. We'll be announcing that publicly very soon, but it's really incredible. You'll want to go to everything. And the nice thing is, because it's all online, it's all recorded and archived. So if you attend one session, you can come back and watch all the other sessions later. So they are each about 45 minutes long. They happen throughout the entire day. It starts at 9:45 a.m. Eastern on gathering.theeducatorcollaborative.com. You can also just find us on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. We're just going to be telling everyone about it as it gets closer. So our morning session is led by Elizabeth Acevedo. Liz is the author of The Poet X. She also is a spoken word author, a spoken word poet. She was the National Youth Slam Grand Champion and is just an incredible, powerful voice in poetry, in writing. She's incredibly inspiring and will be an amazing start to our day. And right now, for those of you tuning in live, we've told no one else this except for you right now, our closing session, which we have been working on for months. And I mean, not working on in the case of like we had to make it happen, because from the get-go, we and this person and this person's family were like, yes, this sounds great. Let's do this. But we've just been like finalizing all the details and getting everything together. So we are happy to announce that our closing session is the amazing Mari Kopany, Little Miss Flint. She will be joining us in a kind of interview style session. Julia Torres from the Educator Collaborative, you also know her from Disrupt Text and lots of other places, will be interviewing her live. Little Miss Flint will join us. What we are so honored and excited about, oh, and I have Mari, I have your shirt in the other room, one of your Flint shirts that Mari uses to raise money. Oh, I should have worn it. I'll wear it at the gathering. Mari was an elementary school student. She's a student just like all of our students. Mari is a student in Flint, Michigan, who has been experiencing the Flint water crisis for now years. And Mari and her family started the Little Miss Flint Twitter handle. And through there, Mari has documented how she, her family, and her community have had to bathe with bottled water, had to wait on tremendously long lines to get safe drinking water that's been bottled, how they've been fighting for justice for themselves and their community, and frankly, other communities that are facing similar crises. But one thing that's so amazing is not only have they been documenting this across time, but Mari has also been using her growing voice for social justice to make real and immediate change and opportunities for community as well. If you go on Mari's Twitter page right now, you'll see that today was another year where she was working with others to fill backpacks for Flint students and children. She has, over this past year, raised money and took, I think it was hundreds of Flint kids to see the opening days of Black Panther. They bought out entire movie theaters and brought kids from Flint there. She has had her birthday celebration where she's invited kids from Flint and just given them an incredibly amazing day together. Mari is a student, like all of your students, who see injustice in the world or in their community, are aware of it, and believe with their full hearts that they can change it. So we are so excited and inspired and amazed that we're going to learn from Mari during our closing session. We'll be broadcasting this fact to everyone broadly now, but we wanted you to be the first to know. So we hope that you'll stay tuned for our full gathering and you'll get to see Mari then as well. So our last, just brief announcement before we go here. Tomorrow is the last day to apply for this. We are seeking a blog curator. We're asking for proposals. This is a paid freelance position. So if you are an educator, in fact, you need to be an educator, you need to have K-12 experience. If you're an educator that also loves to blog or loves to support other writers through their blogging, if you go to the educatorcollaborative.com/blog curator, you'll see the full posting, also the place where you'll submit your proposal. So you'll kind of explain what you'd like to do, how you might bill for it, what those costs would be. You'll send us a writing sample. There's a couple other things to do. This closes the end of the day tomorrow. And if you are overseas, this will close, I think it's like 4 a.m. on the 2nd or something, so you have some time. So please go there for more information. We've had lots of amazing proposals so far, but there still is time for you to submit yours as well, too. So I want to thank all of you, but first just want to thank Shauna. Shauna, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Well, it was a pleasure being here to help support this great year. So thank you for having me.
I was muted. Thank you to all of you for everything you do for educators, for students, for your colleagues. We're so happy that we could preview this session with you. If you go to learning.theeducatorcollaborative.com right now, all of these are available right now for you to register for. There you can also find more information, lots of things you can download. If you want things to hand to people, there you'll find letters to your administrators as well as our services guide. The services guide, I think it's on page 6 and 7, or maybe it's 7 and 8, have a calendar that you can see all of the study series sessions as well as that grid that shows how they're aligned to standards. If you have any questions, please just write to us, contact@theeducatorcollaborative.com. And we just want to thank you for all that you do. We hope that we can be a part of your learning family this year. We hope to see you on September 29th for the Ed Collab Gathering. And as always, thank you for all you do for your colleagues, for your students, and for this incredible profession. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great night.